You're listening to Panthers on Tap. I'm Curtis Rauen, joined by Bryson Karbley. We're just two fans sharing our love for the game in Carolina Panthers football. So join us, crack open a cold one, some bubbly, a little wine, some scotch. We don't care, whatever makes you sleep better at night. Before we dive into the episode, a little self-promotion. Stop what you're doing. Go give us a follow on Twitter at Panthers on Tap. Join the discussion on our Facebook group. We have over 2,500 members. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcast. Just search Panthers on Tap. Bryson, it seems like it's a rinse and repeat week for the Panthers. They fall at home. The home opener to the New Orleans Saints was a close game at the end, but felt pretty far apart in that fourth quarter. Panthers lose 20-17. We were both there. Disappointing loss. Let's talk about it. What do you want to start with?
Yeah, that's a hard decision on where to start. I do think that there were some good things from this game, but a lot of bad things, way more bad things, unfortunately. But yeah, I think I'm going to start with Bryce Young. I think that he is a rookie quarterback who is continuing to take his lumps in his second week of his NFL career. Bryce Young showed some flashes of what we think Bryce Young is, and the rollout with the slant to Thielen, and a couple other passes here and there throughout the game that look like Bryce Young in college. But again, he's continuing to learn the NFL week by week. It doesn't seem like his coaching staff is doing a whole lot to help him, unfortunately, which is the opposite of what we thought it was going to be. Anybody who is writing off Bryce Young, saying he's a bust already, is dumber than a box of rocks. You don't understand football. You don't know ball, son. If you are writing Bryce Young off after 2 weeks in the NFL, he's got one of the worst offensive groups in the NFL, weapons-wise. Adam Thielen's your wide receiver one. Miles Sanders looked awful. I mean, absolutely terrible. He was averaging 3 yards a carry. 14 carries for 43 yards is not acceptable. Not acceptable when Foreman was running behind this offensive line for the most part last season and breaking off big runs. And, a guy that I've hated on a lot since he's been in Carolina is Chuba Hubbard. And Chuba Hubbard looks like the best back on this team. Every time Chuba gets the ball, it seems like he's breaking off a run for, 5, 6, 8, 10 yards. He caught all of his passes, I think, for the most part in this past game, which was weird. They were kind of putting him in like a third down. It seemed like a third down running back role. And Chuba is not really the third down style running back. I mean, we all know his struggles with catching, but I think they've got that confused. And, I think Frank has said in the past that Deuce Staley is in charge of the running back rotation. And I guess that's Deuce's call, but I think Chuba deserves a chance to at least get a 50-50 split in that backfield based off of what we've seen from him up to this point. And I know that
I never thought I'd hear that from you.
That's how down bad I am right now, because Miles Sanders has been that bad. Healthy scratching Raheem Blackshear, I don't understand at all. I don't understand that. And then not involving Laviska at all. Terrace Marshall got 0 targets. Thielen, was probably the most targeted player in the game, I think. And then
he's the best offensive player in the game.
Yeah, and Hayden Hurst.
If you go off of PFF,
Hayden Hurst not involved really throughout the game. I mean, it was a very poor offensive performance from everyone really. But I'm not placing any blame on Bryce. Again, you expect these kinds of games from a rookie quarterback in a second game in the NFL. Calm down. Quit calling him a bust. Quit saying we selected the wrong quarterback, because we didn't. He's going to be the best quarterback out of this draft. I wholeheartedly still believe that. This coaching staff needs to put him in better opportunities. They need to scheme wide receivers open. These wide receivers aren't going to go out there and beat any opposing corners and get open. We've found that out through 2 weeks. You're going to have to use some trick plays, some motion, which they use a little bit of, but not a whole lot. They're going to have to scheme these players open, and unfortunately, they haven't done that for Bryce. I just saw a graph earlier on Twitter. He has his wide receivers are getting the lowest amount of separation in the whole entire league, which no one's surprised by, because that's what we talked about all offseason. But calm down on Bryce. He's going to be all right. Hopefully this team figures it out on offense and calls the right plays. Maybe that's Frank Reich passing the play calling to Thomas Brown, which I'm sure if it continues down this path of the play calling not looking like it's really knowing what they're doing. I mean, it's been incompetent up to this point, really. I'm sure that's going to get that his seat's going to get hotter and hotter, and Thomas Brown is going to be continuing to get called on, and eventually he's going to have to give up the play calling. But I'm not ready to fire Frank Reich or anything like that. Maybe it is time for him to give up the play calling. I wouldn't be too mad at that, but I still think he's going to be a good head coach in Carolina. It's just going to take time, guys, and I know it sucks. I know we all wanted to win week 1 or week 1 and 2 to start the year, and it's just going to take time, and that's my rant on the offensive side of the ball, at least.
Yeah, people need to temper their expectations. I tried to prepare everyone as much as I could from what I've saw from preseason. When we did the predictions, I've had just a feeling it was going to take a little bit. Yeah. Obviously, I didn't think they would go 0-2 to start the year, but it's going to take time. I mean, it took time for a lot of the greats that were picked high in the draft to get going, and I think it's going to take time with Bryce Young, Frank Reich mixing in there. These offensive players, getting their connections figured out with Bryce Young, whether it's Adam Thielen and Hurst and Chark and TMJ and Mingo. It's going to take, they might start hitting like week 5, 6. It literally might take that long. And I know people are going to hate that, but that's just the reality. And I think everyone has had such high hope for this team to start off hot just based off of last year. And, if Steve Wilkes could do it and rip off, a 7-10 record, why can't they do it this year type thing? And it just hasn't translated yet, which is frustrating because we've been in a playoff purgatory here in Carolina for 5, 6, 7 years, whatever it was last time they were in the playoff hunt. So I get that, but people really just need to pump the brakes. It's going to take time. You got to give these guys time. And I also can see the other side of it where you want to put some pressure on this. Everyone wanted to talk about in the offseason, this all-star coaching staff to come in, and what the hell, we're 0-2 and Bryce Young hasn't thrown for 200 yards yet. So I see that, but I think people just need to chill. I even think the play calling, give it a little time. It's 2 games. It's literally 2 games. Like Frank Reich has called 2 games with the Panthers and Bryce Young. We need to get week 6, 7. Okay, yeah. Call for Zed. But like 2 games in, let's chill out here. You got to remember, you got DJ Chark, probably you would say arguably the best wide receiver for Carolina, was out week 1. He was out a couple in the games in the preseason. It's going to take time, and I know it's frustrating as hell, and it sucks. I hate going to the games and losing, and I don't know if you can tell me losing my voice too just from yelling at the game, but it sucks. But trust me, I think the better days are to come, and I know people are frustrated with that, and I get it, and I don't want to settle for mediocrity either. And do I think at some point, Thomas Brown is a better play caller than Frank? Probably, but I think it takes a little bit to figure that out and see, truly if, Frank and Bryce can cook up something where they're dealing on a lot of these drives. But I think we just need to settle it down a little bit.
And just a little perspective. Real quick, just a little perspective. Everybody remembers when we started 3-0 with Sam Darnold, didn't make the playoffs that year. Everybody remembers last season we started 1-5, and we were in the playoff hunt in January. So starting 0-2 is not the end all be all of the season. There's 15 other games. Anything can happen week to week. We've seen the Bucks go 2-0, and nobody thought the Bucks were going to go 2-0. The Vikings look like a team that can be beat. The Seahawks look like a team that can be beat. These teams, even the Lions look beatable at certain points of certain games. So I think, let's temper expectations. I think as long as Bryce Young continues to grow game to game and limits the turnovers, he didn't throw any interceptions this past game, at least, and made some good plays. I think that's the most we can hope for right now. And I remember I was hyping up this team as much as anybody, saying that they could win, 9-10 games and be in the playoff hunt, win the NFC South. I still believe they can win the NFC South. I do not think, after watching the New Orleans Saints and the Atlanta Falcons play the Carolina Panthers in back-to-back weeks, that either of those teams are significantly better than the Carolina Panthers. And I think that once Bryce figures it out in the NFL and Frank figures it out, calling plays for Bryce, that the Carolina Panthers are the best team in this division still, solely based off of the defensive performances that we've seen after week 1 and 2. And then if we can get somewhat of an offense going, I think Carolina wins either of those games. So calm down. Just wanted to say that real quick, Curtis. You can get back to your point.
Yeah, and I think people need to realize this, and I was trying to search this while you were talking, but I can't do it fast enough. But Frank Reich, historically, his teams get off to a slow start.
Oh, yeah.
When you look back at the Colts, 4 or 5 seasons he was there as head coach, and I want to say 2018 they were 1-3 to start. One of the years they started off 0-2 and ended up winning the division that year. So again, you don't want that. That's not acceptable. Like, you want to start off hot, but historically that's how it's been. And I'll be honest, I don't have any expectation of this team making the playoffs right now. Like, just based off these 2 games, I don't think they're ready. I think they're a year away still. Whether people want to, listen to me on or not on that, I just think that there's a lot of things that have already fallen the wayside. We'll talk about it with injuries. I mean, they've already been hit hard as hell by the injury bug, and you lose 3 starters. That's hard to overcome, especially for a young team, a rookie quarterback, and a whole new coaching staff and whole new defensive and offensive system. So, but I honestly don't know where I was going with that, but I think just people need to settle down a little bit on that. I was going back to the Frank Reich, but yeah, Reich, just historically in his coaching tenure, has just always been a kind of a slow start. And he talked about that after the game. I wanted to bring this up because I pulled this up on PFF. I was just kind of looking at the play calls, and I know one of the big things and one thing they struggle with in this game was the Saints only brought 4 guys majority of the game, and Carolina struggled with that, which shouldn't be too big of a surprise just with all the injuries across the O-line. But PFF, according to PFF, the Saints blitzed only 6 times out of 39 pass attempts. So, again, they were bringing 4 and getting pressure. And we'll look at the PFF grades here as I'm trying to pull this up. But that was like a big thing is, you're not going to win game, or the Saints are going to have their way when all they need to do is bring 4 on defense, and, they can put, the 7 other guys in coverage. So
yeah, I think Bryce was hurt. I think he was hurt like 34 times, or like a crazy amount of times this past game, and he was sacked. What was it, 4 or 5 times?
4 times, I believe.
Yeah, he was under pressure the whole game, really. I mean,
and here's the PFF grades for them.
And even when he had time, nobody was open to throw the ball to. So, Bryce is unfortunately in a situation that's going to make it really tough for him to have that seamless, easy transition that we were hoping for in the NFL. So, Zavala, I'm going to give him a little bit of leniency there. He's moved to the left guard position from the right guard where he was finally getting settled in at, look at that grade. It wasn't great. So
yeah, I added the overall. So the third, the OFF, that's their offensive overall score. I added that in this week. We've only done the pass blocking, run blocking, because I think it gives a little bit better idea sometimes overall of how they played. But yeah, Zavala, not a great day. Cade Mays either. And you were the one to point it out during the game. Throckmorton came in. I don't know what was that, third quarter. I feel like it was the second half at some point.
Third quarter.
So it looked like that was planned from what Frank said yesterday in the press conference. Like, they had a plan to bring him in at some point. And I don't know what the pressures were for all those guys and how many sacks they've given up. I don't know if you've seen anything on Twitter or not, but
yeah, I can pull it up.
I want to say Bryce was sacked 4 times. Not sure what the hurries were, but hats off to Moten. Moten has been, I know he has gotten some criticism before, and I'm sure I've delivered some of that as well. But I feel like over the 2 games, he's been the best O-lineman on this team by a pretty wide margin. So just hats off to him. I thought he played well. I thought Icky at times played well. He had that one sack, which I'll talk about later, which I thought was a pretty big moment in the game that Bryce coughed up the ball on. Again, I'm no offensive line guru. And sometimes you can see, they pass those guys off or bring them around. And Bryce can step up in the pocket that way. And I know that's kind of maybe what they're, quote unquote, supposed to do in some of those, pass sets. But I thought that play was major for this game. But yeah, any surprises, Bryson, with these grades at all? I thought.
No, I wouldn't say I was
pretty fair. I would say.
Yeah, I didn't really notice how bad Zavala was, especially in the pass blocking. So that kind of surprised me a little bit, but yeah, I think obviously Taylor Moton is the steady hand there. I mean, even he didn't have his best game. 61 is kind of low for Moton when you average his grades out. So yeah, I think everybody struggled, and Bryce felt that at the quarterback position, and yeah. I mean, the offensive line has to play better. I know they've got injuries and Zavala moving to left guard, and you got Calvin Throckmorton and Cade Mays rotating at right guard. Maybe they maybe they activate Nash Jensen and he's not a healthy scratch and they try him at right guard. I mean, it sucks. We have the injuries. Corbett coming back in week 5 is going to be huge for this team if he is healthy week 5 and he comes back, and then they can, kind of get back into shape, hopefully back into form and fill that right guard spot and let Zavala focus on that left guard. So, week 5 maybe is when the turnaround happens when Corbett is back, because he is literally one of the most important offensive linemen on this team. He was the leader essentially of this group, even though Taylor Moton's been here longer. It seemed like Corbett was the one that set the tone, and he didn't. If you didn't give it your all every single play, he was going to let you know. And that's Taylor Moton's more of a quiet kind of guy and leads by example. And Corbett was kind of more of the voice in the locker room that, he's not scared to let you know you're not playing good. So once he comes back, I think that's going to be a big addition for the team.
Yeah. One of the surprises for me, I guess, is for how, 2 out of the 5, scoring high in the run blocking category, and then the run game sucked. Like that, there's no translation there, which is kind of weird to me. Again, I don't know, and I know Frank talked about it. They played a lot behind the sticks. I feel like the run game kind of, it almost seemed like slowed down some momentum offensively for the team. I don't know if you really caught that, but I felt like that. And there were certain drives where, Bryce got some passes going, and then they hit a run, and then it just, kind of fall apart from there. Once they hit that run, I almost felt like they should have just. Maybe that's not the way to go with it, but I felt like almost they could have just kept passing, because I feel like it was bits and pieces. It was not the entire game, but there was points in the game where I'm like, man, they should have just kept with the pass here. Because I felt like once they do that, they do a run, I just feel like it just stymied the offense, but maybe that's just me.
No, it didn't help that Miles Sanders can't break a tackle, and the first person that touches him, he's going down, and he runs directly into the offensive lineman or defensive lineman and doesn't do anything. He's been terrible. He's been bad. And this is a guy that had 1,300 yards last year and 11 touchdowns, top 5 running back in the league statistically. But, it goes to show how good that Eagles offensive line was, I guess, because, he's not been good. He hasn't looked like a starting running back for this Panthers. Foreman looked better last year. Chubas looked better in his limited role he's had with this team. Even you can go back and pretty much every running back we've had recently has looked better than Miles Sanders has so far. So I think that he can look good. I think that, hopefully it's coming, and hopefully we just need to be patient, and I'm being a little hard on him, but I expect more from a Panthers running back. Carolina Panthers historically have good running backs, and they can always lean on their running backs, it seems like, throughout history. And for Miles Sanders to come out here and put a performance up like he did on Monday, it's just not acceptable.
I will say this about the run game. you might disagree with me on this. I don't think they really opened up a shit ton of holes for those guys at all. Like Sanders was getting hit in the backfield a lot. There really was nowhere to go in a lot of the runs. There was a couple I rewatched the first half, and there was one run in particular where I thought Sanders, I don't know how he couldn't get around the edge, and it should have been about a 15-yard run. It just seemed like he was running through quicksand. I don't know what the hell was up with it, but majority of it, I just think there really wasn't a whole lot, hole-wise for them. But I also, and we talked about this, me and you, during the game, was I felt like they needed to rotate Chuba in there because it felt like there was a spark in there when he was in and had a couple runs. He didn't have many. I don't know what
he had 2 carries.
Yeah. Which isn't, I mean, what, he had 70 yards last game and and he had 2 carries this week. And Frank was asked about that. I don't know, it was today or yesterday, and he said it was just one of those, it was just the feel of the game, and the run game they weren't getting anywhere with that. So not sure if that's the right excuse for it, but I definitely thought Chuba should have got rotated in more, especially with Miles Sanders' struggles. I wanted to mention this too. I know we're talking about offense, but this is literally the reason why they lost this game, is the play concept. So we talked about that last week with the pistol and stuff. I don't see that in here, but PFF has it broken down by play action, no play action, and screen passes. So out of 39 attempts, and I still think this number is low, and I don't even know if I'll pull this up maybe when you're talking to see what it was last week, but only 7 play action passes the entire game. 32 were no play action, and 4 of them were screens. So of those 32, 4 of them were screens, if that makes sense, because it was 39. So you might be like, well, what the hell? That doesn't add up. But I still think they need to get Bryce Young under center. And maybe it's because they're worried about the O-line that they're not putting him under center for a play action drop back. I'm not sure what the reasoning is for that, but I think that's where they can get, some of these guys open, and the separation can get there is by those play designs. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I was so frustrated with the lack of play action, and I get you need to establish the run, a successful run game to establish the play action. But when the Saints, they're playing single high safety for most of the game. I was pointing out every single time when I was sitting watching the game to everybody around me, single high safety, single high safety. They're not scared of the pass. They're not scared of a deep pass. You got to hit them with a play action. You got to hit them with a rollout. You got to hit them with a screen to somebody besides Adam Thielen. I don't know why you're throwing screen passes to Adam Thielen. That makes no sense. You got Laviska Shenault. You got Terrace Marshall Jr. You got Jonathan Mingo. I mean, I don't understand. Or even DJ Shark, throw a screen pass to him. Adam Thielen's the last guy that should be getting a screen pass out of that group. I'm sorry, but he's just not elusive or fast. He's not that guy at this point in his career.
They had 6 play action last week. Sorry to jump in. 6 last week. Good. So it's about 15% play action for the first 2 weeks in both games.
And what they're doing is they're lining up, and they're telling our wide receivers, go beat your man in coverage. Go beat your man-to-man, because it's been single high safety, man-to-man coverage both games we played. Go beat your man. Go get open. And these wide receivers for 2 weeks in a row have not been able to do that. It does not take a genius to see what's going on here. They need to scheme them open. They need to use the motion, do a couple, a lot more than a couple play actions, and then throw in some trick plays, some flea flickers. I saw 2 other games where they had run a flea flicker, and both of the plays went for large gains, and I think one was even a touchdown. So, it's just like our offense play calling in Carolina for years has been so lackluster. It's been so. It looks like everybody else in the league is light years ahead of us. I was watching Unnecessary Bluntness, Duncan, and he's hilarious, and he was saying something about the Rams have Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell, and these guys are going for hundreds of yards receiving, and there's no way that those 2 receivers are better than what we have. It's just the coaching. It's the way that they're scheming them open. You know, that Puka Nacua broke the record for most receptions for first 2 games. This guy's a 5th round pick. I mean, come on. It's like the coaching is just, it's not been there at this point, and I am going to be patient. I know I'm hot right now, but it has to be better. It has to be better top to bottom, and I think that it will get better. And like you said, Curtis, you know, there are better times ahead, but man, it's tough right now to be a Carolina Panthers fan.
Well, it has been. I mean, it has been for years, and it's frustrating as hell. And the high expectations of what this coaching staff would bring, and we heard all offseason about the experience, and you know, this team is a plug in a quarterback and ready to go to the playoffs, plug and play type team, and you know, they're going to compete for the division this year, and we just haven't seen that up to this point. And you know, they get thrown this back-to-back division start to the season, which is tough in its own self on this team. And then the rookie QB, it's frustrating as all hell. So I get it. I mean, I'm not knocking anyone that's criticizing offense plays, because is it really much different than what we've seen the last 3 years? I don't really think so. I think this generic, you know, offense that they throw screens and 5-yard outs and 5-yard slants, and it's just, there's not a lot of excitement right now. And you know, you hate to say it, but I think they're really missing DJ Moore. I get it. I know the knocks on him. I understand that, but I mean, he at least was able to make plays and get open at least.
Yeah.
And some of these guys are just not. And I mean, I know Adam Thielen gets a lot of shit, but I thought he played well this last game. And there was a play in particular when I watched the game back where Bryce Young, it was on an out route through the pass to him, and the Saints guy broke on it and almost had the pick. It was the one that was nearly picked off. And Adam Thielen, the recognition to come, he came back and punched from behind like this, like punched the ball out of the guy's arm. Otherwise, it was going to be a pick. Like those type of plays, just most receivers are going to be giving up on that shit. But for him to do that, and then I mean, he didn't have a crazy statistical game. I think he had like 7 catches, 40 yards or whatever it was. But I felt like there was a couple plays where he was open that Bryce didn't hit or didn't see him. But I thought overall he had a pretty good game. Again, it's just still not good enough. I mean, it's a good game for the Panthers wide receivers who caught like less than 20 yards apiece, it seems like.
Yeah.
Little shocked by Hayden Hurst. Like I remember talking shit last week, picking him up in fantasy. He wasn't there. It was just all across the board offensively, just nothing. And TMJ to get a goose egg. That can't happen, dude. Like this is supposed to be like his breakout year.
Yeah.
That's what everyone was hoping for, and we haven't seen that to this point,
and
which is super frustrating.
It really hurts me to say this because we've been through a lot in the past couple of years here in Carolina, but this past Monday was one of the worst offensive performances I can remember in recent memory. I mean, and it's not because of the quarterback. It's because of everybody. The lack of what we've talked about this whole time, the lack of separation from the wide receivers, the running backs not doing anything, the offensive line being terrible, and all that combined with Bryce struggling a little bit throughout this whole game. I mean, it was bad until the final couple minutes of the game, and when they scored their touchdown, when the Saints were playing prevent defense pretty much. So, I mean, hopefully that's something to build on that last touchdown drive. But, I tweeted about it. Bryce looked really comfortable in the 2-minute offense, the no huddle, the speed it up, go up tempo, do whatever you need to do to get this offense rolling, because it's not rolled through 2 weeks to start the year.
Yeah, and that was one thing I wanted to actually talk to you about, because I thought the same thing. I wrote that in my notes is, should they go up tempo more, no huddle? Because it looked like Bryce was very comfortable when they did that. Again, it was end of the game. I understand that, and I'm sure Saints were just playing prevent and whatever else. But, I mean, Bryce, he looked like he was in college again, like in command, running the show type thing. That's kind of what it looked like to me. And that play we mentioned this, that play where there was a high snap, one hands it up, and then just fucking takes off for what, like a 25-yard gain on a run.
Yeah.
That's the shit you see at Alabama that gets you excited.
And that 2-point conversion was nasty too.
Yes.
Where he was running, didn't look, and then just hit Thielen. I mean, that was really good. He had some good moments in this game.
He's got flashes in both games where it's like, man, when he puts this all together, it's going to look real good. I just think it's.
And when we get him a true wide receiver one weapon, they need to contact the Cincinnati Bengals and send whatever they want. Send the Cole Tepper, send the first-round pick, send Serper, send the
They just don't have the capital for it. Man, they don't have. I mean, what are they going to give
Terrace
up?
Marshall Jr., second-round pick and a third. I don't know. Do whatever you need to do to get that deal done because they need a.
I agree. I really like T. Higgins, but
yeah. So, and one other note before we move to the defense, if you tweet me the video of Bryce not lining up behind the center and you criticize him, I'm blocking you. I don't care. I'm not talking to you because you don't understand football. He was not even looking at the offensive line. He was too busy literally reading the defense like a book on that play. So, yeah, he was a little distracted at the time, but Miles was there to tap him on the shoulder and he scooted right over. But for people to say he looks nervous or he doesn't know what he's doing out there, they're not watching the game. I mean, he's literally reading
the defense. Happen? I saw like the little snippet on Twitter, but do you know when that happened in the game? Like,
I'm pretty sure that was.
I don't remember that
fourth quarter.
Oh, it was okay. Yeah, I'm not worried about it. People are stupid. People are going to have their side. Those who wanted CJ Stroud are going to criticize everything he does wrong, and those, everyone who wanted him, I mean, it's a pissing match, is what it is. And anytime Anthony Richardson goes off, and what's funny is I'm going to bring this up. Knock on wood, nothing ever happens. But who's not been on the injury report yet?
Yep.
Bryce Young. Who's been on the injury report? 2 6'5", 6'6", 6'4" quarterbacks that are way bigger than him have both been on the injury report. So people need to shut the hell up about that too. All right, let's move on to the defense because they played pretty damn well. They played, again, I think, to obviously to win this game. And I think what made me feel a little better when the offense was struggling was that the Saints offense were struggling too. They were terrible too. Like they couldn't get anything going. So I tweeted this out last night. Camus, Grugier-Hill, Justin Houston, Frankie Louvu, and Jeremy Chin played outstanding yesterday. Like awesome all around. Like Frankie Louvu, again, he is earning a contract, a big one. He's going to get paid because he's played really well and has made impactful plays in both of these games. And everyone's been so worried about how is Carolina going to create pressure alongside Brian Burns or opposite Brian Burns, and they did that this game. YGM was getting in there. He deserves some credit. I think he had a half sack. PFF counted it as a sack. Justin Houston had a sack. Frankie had 2. So, those guys all stepped up, and then Grugier-Hill to come in with Shaq Thompson out. I thought he played well. I think he needs to get the plays in a little bit quicker. There was a couple times where, he would relay the defensive play call to everyone, and the Saints were up on the line. All right, so he'll get that with repetition, but I thought across the board the defense played outstanding, and for a guy we harped on, and I get it, I think he gave up a couple of plays. I thought C.J. Henderson played all right. I thought he played an all right game. Do you agree with me on that one?
I do. That's why I'm smiling because he did. I mean, even the play that Chris Olave, got that nice one-handed catch on C.J. Henderson. He was in coverage, which he typically is in coverage. He even tried to make a play on the ball this time. It was just an outstanding catch by Chris Olave, a really good receiver who was held in check for most of the game by C.J. Henderson. So, yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about C.J. Henderson, which is positive. 26 looked bad. 26 was the worst corner out there. And
he had a couple bad plays that were
– You got beat by Rashid Shaheed. All right? Dante Jackson.
My fantasy team. Back off.
It's not acceptable for your number one cornerback. So, yeah, I mean, the defense played well, but you know where I'm going.
Go ahead. I don't know where you're going.
Guess who didn't show up?
Oh, did you see though? You haven't seen then. Did you hear that he was hurt?
Yeah, I saw the video. I saw the
He's
video.
limping, man.
So it's hard to tell at what point of the game that happened. He played
That
79
was at
minutes.
halftime,
That was at
I
halftime.
believe,
Okay, so
where he was limping. I thought, I'm not sure on that. Don't quote me 100%, but I thought that was Patrick's video at halftime. But
okay, I thought that was the end of the game, but yeah, 2 tackles. That's it. He had a couple pressures, which is typical. But when you see Arden Key the week before beating Trevor Penning like a rag doll every single play almost, and then Brian Burns comes in, who is a top 5 defensive end in this league, top 10, if you want to argue that, to get no sacks against Trevor Penning.
I'm giving him a free pass, dude. I think he was hurt. I do. I didn't know the limp until after. And remember I asked you, like Brian Burns, it was a fourth quarter. Brian Burns is not out there on like he was only in on third downs. I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
Um,
Was Frank asked about that today?
No one has asked at all. And I know, I think it was either Sheena or Vashti. I actually asked one of the players about it in the locker room. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. And I think someone asked Burns, and he's like, if I played the whole game, I'm all right. I think that's what he said. He's like, I played the whole game. I'm fine.
Okay.
So I don't know if he's kind of blowing it off, trying to, people not trying to get folks worried that it's something serious because he played the whole game, but that's something to monitor because obviously that's not good. And for his contract situation is awful for him because he gambled and, they're both, Carolina's playing hardball on it, and he's just hoping nothing's seriously wrong because they'd really be in trouble then. But
yeah, but don't get me wrong. I had to sign, pay Brian Burns, pay him. I'm just being hard on him because
hats off to those guys too. 1,000 pieces of cardboard that say pay Brian Burns. I didn't see a whole lot like in the stadium, and they're small, so it's kind of hard to see.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool for them to do that.
But 2 other players I want to mention before we get off of it: the safeties. Xavier Woods, highest graded player on the defense, which is crazy because Frankie Louvu played out of his fucking mind. Xavier Woods played even more out of his mind.
Both of those guys played.
And Von Bell with that interception, Derek Carr throwing it into triple coverage. If you are a Saints fan, you came out of the game thinking that you are a good football team, you are blind as shit. I don't know why you were chanting anything walking out of the stadium. But, Von Bell and Xavier Woods, 2 very good safeties. Very happy about that. But your guy Jeremy Chin, he played a good game, but he only played 39% of the snaps.
Yeah, I don't know what was up with that, and I'm wondering if you're going to see more of that now with Shaq out, if him in the playing linebacker, hopefully. But yeah, he was outstanding in that game, and I just don't know if that was schematically. Now I'll also tell you what I really like. Again, we didn't really see a whole lot in preseason from, Evero schematically, but I like the way he calls defense, mixing in blitzes and bringing linebackers. He doesn't bring a lot of corner blitzes, I've noticed. Like Carolina did a lot of corner blitzes under Rule a lot of time in snow. JC. But do you remember? I just haven't paid it. I don't remember a lot of corner blitzes.
No,
I'm just not paid it. I'm going to try to pay attention this next game, where I can actually watch it on TV to see if they're doing that. But I feel like they're bringing back more of, I think Ron Rivera and his defense has always blitzed the linebackers a lot. But you see a lot of that now where, they're sending Frankie up the middle and Shaq, both of them. One drops back, one goes. So you'll see a lot more of that. And I think, again, those safeties are – Von Bell had a hell of a game, and Xavier Woods had a couple big pass breakups in that game off of hits. So they both did outstanding.
Real quick, though, about the defensive play calling, you reminded me. Every single time Seven stepped on the field for the Saints, Taysom Hill.
Yes, where I wanted to mention. I have that in the notes.
We said it is a fucking run. Play defense, play run defense, which this team has struggled 2 weeks in a row to play run defense, which is not.
They've struggled for like 5 years with run defense.
Yeah. So he had 9 carries for 75 yards. He averaged 8.3 yards a carry.
It's always the Taysom Hill coming out game versus Carolina. I don't understand it. You know what he's going to do. I fucking hate him. He's probably the most hated player from. I can't stand his ass. know what it is about him. I hate when he's on the field. The commentators talk about him like he's fucking Patrick Mahomes. It's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I hate him. And every time he plays Carolina, he finds a way to have a highlight game. It's so fucking frustrating. But yeah, that was one of my notes. I'm like, dude, he ran like 4 QB draws, like 10 yards of fucking carry.
The one to seal the game too was a Taysom Hill QB draw for like 13 yards. So
I wanted to mention this, and I don't know if you watched this back at all, but we'll talk about Shaq Thompson here. I watched the game in these plays back. It was friendly fire. I don't know if you saw this, but Deshaun Williams, Shaq was in front of him. Deshaun Williams grabs Penny and fucking throws him to the ground, and Penny landed right on fucking Shaq's leg.
Oh.
So like if it was like almost like an after the play, like two guys, just trying. One was, Williams was trying to, pancake him or whatever. And literally, if they didn't do that, like they didn't have to do that. Like the play was already ahead of them, and he just like threw him and landed right. I'm like, fuck, dude.
Yeah.
So that was really frustrating. Huh?
So we can't catch a break this year. I feel like it's one of the worst injury years already, and we're only 3 weeks into this, about to be 3 weeks into the season. Man, they haven't. We lost, like you mentioned, 3 starters, and Shaq Thompson, who, of course, his play hasn't been amazing. It hasn't been stellar at this point in his career.
Still a huge leader for that team.
He is the leader of that defense. He's the guy that took a pay cut to come back to stay in Carolina. It's a huge loss. You can even tell it from the presser, from Frank Reich. And everybody is sad about this loss because of how important he is emotionally to this team. And he is a good player. He's not a great player, but he is a very good linebacker still. So it sucks to be out for the year. I think they've already called it. So it sucks. And, I wish him the best, a speedy recovery. And I'm excited to see him back here next year, hopefully.
Yeah, there's a reason, I'm almost positive on this, that Shaq Thompson was a captain for Ron Rivera, Matt Rule, and now Frank Reich. And he's been here through all 3 of those regimes. Just outstanding guy on and off the field, and is one of the top leaders for this team, not even just defensively, just across the board. So hate it for him. He's out. He had surgery today. It sounds like it went well. And, obviously out for the year. We kind of missed this. I don't think last time we had this podcast, Brady Christensen out for the year. Yep. So you have 2 guys, 2 starters. Mind you, Corbett's already gone. And then obviously J.C. Horn that they hope to have back later in the season, God willing. But, just tough. And I know I get it. Injuries happen for every team. But I feel like Carolina's been through the ringer here now with 3 starters out. And it's been tough. I think that was all for me. Oh no, we cannot disregard this freaking position group, and I feel like everyone does every freaking time this fast of the game. Special teams, Eddie Pinheiro, dominant, like 2 50-yard field goals. The guy doesn't kick 50-yard field goals much. Nailed them both. He was literally the all-star of last night's game. A guy aside of us asked me, like, is there anything to be excited about? I was like, Eddie Pinheiro, because really that was it, man. Like there was, this so freaking frustrating. But Eddie, man, I was shocked. Frank's really got some, cojones to go, put his cards on the table for Eddie, because I feel like the whole regime, they're either punting there or they're going to go for it on some of those deep kicks. Eddie didn't get a lot of opportunities, 50 and beyond. Last year, and I feel like if it was 50, it was like a 52-yard or a 51, whatever, 50. But yeah, he played outstanding yesterday.
Yeah, that's my guy, man. I've been staining Eddie since since last year, even through the Atlanta game. Yeah, that was his worst game he's ever had. But since then, the guy's basically not missed a fucking kick for the Carolina Panthers. So every time he steps up to kick the ball, now I'm so confident that it's going in because he's been so steady Eddie in Carolina. The 50-yard field goals were even a little bit of a surprise to me because, like you said, he's not really been asked to do that.
First one was close. I didn't know if he
Yeah.
had enough leg on it. But the second one, it didn't. I thought it looked like with ease. So
Yeah. And he's kicking the balls out of the back of the end zone now, and he's not. Every now and then he would get like riled up after a made kick. He'd get so excited he'd kick it out of bounds or whatever. He's not
yeah, I'm
doing that.
always worried about that. My guy is he gonna get it there this time? Like on kickoffs, because anytime he hits a big one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought he did well. LaVisca, I don't think there was a kick return yesterday from the Panthers, but LaVisca was back there, so that's a change. We have not seen that yet. Obviously, he didn't get any returns because they kicked the ball and got a bunch of touchbacks. Who was punt returning? Well, it was Marset.
Yeah, and he did very well.
He had a couple good, 10-yard or whatever, 10, 15-yard returns out of it. And then the Blackshear, that was odd that he was a question or what the hell do they call it? A healthy scratch. There we go. Healthy scratch. So, but Bryce, I wanted to point out this play, and we talked about it a little bit before, but I feel like in both the first two games, there has been two crucial plays in the game that were a precursor of how the game ended up turning out. The first week, it was the 4th and 1. They don't get any points out of it. And I felt like that set the tone for the entire game. They score there. I think it's an entirely different game, and I think they win that game. I get it. You don't want to just pick out one play, but that's just my gut feeling and what you're going off of momentum. This week, it was after the Von Bell interception. They had the ball at the 37-yard line in this game in Saints territory. And I think it was like 3:06 left in the second quarter. So, and Carolina gets ball at half. So you have 37. Bryce Young hits Adam Thielen on a 15-yarder. That puts them at the 22-yard line. Then you have Miles Sanders, 4-yard gain. That's 2nd and 6. We hit the 2-minute warning. Then you got Bryce Young. Sanders again run. No gain. So we got 3rd and 6, 1:52 left on New Orleans 23. And that's when Bryce Young rolls out. Icky passes his guy off. Guy comes around. Bryce doesn't see it and fumbles it. We've all seen the play. That play right there, I felt like destroyed any momentum they had and just sucked the whole life out of that offense going into halftime. And then it kind of, spilled over into the third quarter. And then obviously we know the result of the game. But if they come away, I think they really had a good chance of coming away with a touchdown in that drive. But even if they came away with 3 there, I just felt like the momentum just total wiped out from what they did. And anytime you create a turnover, especially in your own or in the opposing team's territory, you have to come away with points, even if it's 3. And it shouldn't be 3. I mean, that's got to be 7 every time. But to not come away with anything, and thank God, and again, this goes back to what we've been saying, thank God the defense played well enough where New Orleans didn't score any points off of that turnover, thankfully. But that just stopped any momentum for Carolina offensively.
Yeah, and if it wasn't that series, it was the series, their second series coming out of half where they got the ball on the Saints, I believe, 40-yard line when the defense pinned, Johnny Hekker pinned them deep and the defense held and they punted and Smith-Marset had that about 10-yard return and they were on the Saints 40 to start the drive and they got 4 net yards and they ended up coming away with a field goal. When you're starting on your opponent's 40-yard line, you need to have higher expectations than getting 4 yards and sailing for a field goal. I mean, the defense continually put the offense in positions to put some points on the board, and they didn't come away with them at all times. And unfortunately, at the end of the game, when the defense was called upon to get 2 stops, I mean, they were too tired, really. I mean, I've been hard on them, but you had that Dante Jackson where he blew. Rashid Shaheed caught the ball, and the Saints go down, score a touchdown, and then at the end of the game, when they could have gotten the ball back with 30 seconds left or 40 seconds left to have a chance to go get a field goal, that's when Taysom Hill gets the run for a first down. The game's over. So Unfortunately, just the way the cookie crumbled in week 2 and Monday Night Football in Carolina, and it's on to next week.
Yeah, and I wanted to go to that, just that breakdown of those plays, the one you mentioned, because I totally forgot about that drive. But Carolina, they had it 4th and 1, and that's when they brought out Andy Dalton for the QB sneak, and then you get the delay a game. So
no, it was a false start.
Oh yeah, false start on Cade Mays. That's right. Yeah, that kill, like that was killer. And we got to talk about this because we haven't even mentioned this yet. What's your thoughts on Andy Dalton coming out with short yardage 4th down plays?
Yeah, I don't mind it. Frank Reich, he mentioned it today. He's kind of done that throughout his coaching career with other quarterbacks. I don't, if you don't got to put Bryson in that short yardage situation where he's running under the center and he's getting injured. I think it was I forgot what quarterback it was in recent memory who got injured. I think back-to-back years in a quarterback sneak. So I'm fine with Andy Dalton coming in on short yardage situations, bigger guy, veteran. I don't have an issue with that. I'm not sure if you do, but that's fine by me.
I hate 2 QBs like coming in. I don't like it. I think it breaks up things. And obviously Carolina, I just don't think Carolina right now is built for that. Like Bryce Young, year 2 and 3, and been in the system a couple years, and the offensive line, and we don't have Joe Schmo playing at right guard and Zavala at left, and I just think it's too much for them, too much change, and I don't know. I think I just don't think they're ready for that, which is kind of pathetic to say, but I also don't think you should be running Bryce Young on QB sneaks. Like the play call yesterday on the second, 4th down attempt with Andy Dalton, Bryce Young could have done the same thing. I thought that was a great play call where, he optioned it out to Sanders for the 1st down. Awesome play call. And I'm sure that's what the play call was on the first 4th down, and they just didn't call it because, dipshit Cade Mays, false start, and you get backed up. But I felt like, and I think you were hollering about this too, is even with that being 4th and 6 in that 3rd quarter, I felt like that was the time to pull the trigger on the 4th down play and going for it, because Carolina punted away, and it's just the defense, it kept taking a toll on them, all these long sustainable drives that ended in field goals. You knew at some point they were going to give up the touchdown. It was bound to happen. So I felt like Carolina should have taken some shots, and Frank Reich hasn't seemed scared to pull that trigger, but for some reason just he didn't want to do it. Last night. So that was a little frustrating too, but I was just curious on the QB sneaks. Again, I'm sure it looks like that's what the plan is going to be going forward. I felt like, maybe we'd see LaVisca in some of those short yardage situations because he's a little bit bigger. But yeah, just frustrating altogether because it felt like it was 1 step forward and, 6 steps back on some of those offensive plays. You touched on it, but I wanted to ask you, do you think Frank should give up the play calls?
So in the heat of the moment, I tweeted that I think he should. I'm an emotional tweeter at times, especially when my team is 0-2 and I had extremely high hopes. So I think that his seat is definitely getting hot as a play caller. It's been 2 weeks though, and there have been some good play calls. There have been a lot of bad play calls. I think he's learning what he has on offense. I think he's learning what he can and can't do, much like Bryce Young at quarterback. So I say give him until the bye week. And if we go into week 7 and the bye week and the offense is stagnant and there's been no growth, it's been the same thing week in and week out, then I think you have no choice but to give up the play calling at that point. So I personally, that's what I think is best, is just wait until the bye week. That way, if they do decide to give the play calling, they got the bye week to go over the changes that are going to be taking place with Thomas Brown and kind of get Bryce prepared. But like you mentioned earlier, do I think Thomas Brown can be a better play caller than Frank Reich? Yeah, I do. I think Thomas Brown is he's from that McVay coaching tree. And like I talked about earlier, McVay's got Puka Nacua and Tutu Atwell looking like some of the best wide receivers in the league because he's scheming them open. And that offense is humming. A team that we thought was going to be one of the worst in the league, and they're balling out. So I think Thomas Brown has that potential. But I do think Frank Reich has potential to be a good play caller in this league. He has in the past been a good play caller. He won a Super Bowl with the Eagles with was it Nick Foles or Carson Wentz? Yeah, but Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator.
Yeah.
So he's been around successful play calling in this league, and he's called successful plays himself. I mean, he had winning seasons in Indianapolis. So I think let's be patient. Unfortunately, that's the continuing word that we continue to hear: patience. And we've heard it for more than one season in Carolina, back-to-back years, back-to-back years. Continue to be patient, hurry up and wait, kind of mantra there. So yeah, patience is what I'm going to practice here until the bye week. And then if like I said, if we're going into week 7 and it's the same thing, Frank Reich better fucking give that shit over because it's done. It's done. I'm not being patient anymore from that point on.
No, that's a good point. They do have that early bye, so that could be when the changing of the guard happens. But these receivers own some of this fault too. I mean, these guys aren't getting open. And I think it was one drop yesterday. Mingo, I thought it was more than one drop, but I looked back. There was only one drop according to PFF, and that was the Mingo. Bryce hit him on a beautiful slant, missed it. It's like, got to make those plays. And I get it, he's a rookie, and he's got a lot of balls left. But it's like, damn, dude, you get those plays like that, especially when the offense isn't going. You got to make those. So hopefully those guys bounce back. But man, it's like when you start calling in wide receivers off the streets because it's ridiculous.
and just because you mentioned his name and I totally forgot about it. What the fuck was that play where Bryce hit him on that out route towards the out of bounds, and he ran backwards out of bounds instead of running towards the end zone?
Fourth quarter. I mean, I saw what he was doing, but at the time, I seriously think he would have gotten a touchdown if he just ran forward. I don't know. It was so questionable. I don't know what he was doing. That's one of those plays they probably pulled up in the meeting room, and everyone was laughing their ass off. Yeah. So, yeah, that was like. And we already know what JT O'Sullivan thinks of Adam Thielen, calls him 19. But, I mean, that's just – I mean, these guys got to show out. And I was watching back. There was a play – God, you can't remember who you threw to that was covered. I think it might have been Mingo. I think it was Mingo on an out route. But DJ Chark came across as well, and Bryce threw it to Mingo, and he had Chark on the out route, and it would have been a big-ass gain. I thought I was seeing that before we got on here. I'm like, damn, dude, like that's the shit that they got to hit. It's not there yet. I feel like there's a couple things here and there you'd like to see them hit. But yeah, it's a work in progress. I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Seattle this weekend. So Carolina on the road. We all know what happened last year. Carolina upsets them with Wilkes. Massive game in Seattle. This one, what are you worried about? I feel like that's the question.
Yeah, I'm worried about the Seattle Seahawks wide receivers, and I'm worried about Kenneth Walker III, and I'm worried about Geno Smith because I think that they have a very good offense. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. I think Tyler Lockett's dealing with some injuries, but, I mean, that offense is talented top to bottom. And the defense last year, specifically J.C. Horn, I remember had a very good game versus Geno Smith. And, we all know he's not out there. So C.J. Henderson and Dante Jackson are going to get tested a lot in this game. We're going to see what they're made of. But I don't think that this is a game that is unwinnable. I don't think that – I mean, of course, the Seahawks are going to be favored. It's a hostile environment out there in Seattle. And but we saw it last year. nobody expected the Panthers to win when they played the Seahawks last year. Nobody expects the Panthers to win this year. If this is the game that Bryce and Frank figure it out, then this is the game that they're going to win, because I feel like the Panthers defense is going to keep them in this game for a while at least. So I am worried about that offense, and if CJ Henderson and Dante don't show up, then we could be in trouble. We could be in serious trouble. But I have a little bit of hope that they will show up. The run defense needs to play better. Kenneth Walker, I think he win, or he was in the running for offensive rookie of the year last year. I mean, this guy is a hell of a running back, and I think they even drafted another running back this year, Charbonnet from UCLA. So, offense is talented. Their defense is a good defense too. They got the rookie corner, first round pick, Witherspoon. Bobby Wagner's back in Seattle. This is a talented defense as well. But like I said, I think the Panthers can win this game if things start clicking for this team. So maybe it's the week, maybe it's not. I would just personally, all I want to see is some Bryce Young growth, and I'm sure I will see that because I saw it last game, and I know the kind of player that he is, and I know that he's going to show growth into week 3.
Yeah, and one thing we did, we harped a lot on the offense, but we did not see an interception out of him. There was the one I mentioned that probably could have went their way, and then obviously the fumble, but he has limited the turnovers, so there is some slight improvement there. Yeah, Seattle, a couple of things to watch. Jamal Adams might be playing. There's a possibility. He hasn't played since week 1 of 2022. So he's been out. I think it's been a quad injury. I think that's what it is. But that's something to monitor. It sounds like even if he did play, it would be limited because they kind of want to bring him back slow, but that's something to watch. Rick Woolen, he's their Pro Bowl corner.
Tariq.
He is what?
Tariq Woolen.
Is that it? Is that his first name?
Tariq.
Well, anyway, Woolen. I'm just calling him Woolen, man.
There you go. Hey.
He had a chest injury against the Lions, so he sounds like he was, I think Carroll said, like 1 day at a time or something like that of what they're taking the approach on, but that's something to monitor. But like you said, I think I'm more worried about Kenneth Walker. That's my biggest concern.
Yeah.
Because Carolina has struggled to stop the run. And Kenneth Walker last week looked really good. Yeah, he made some really nice plays. I'm not as high on Geno Smith as a lot of people are. I don't know. That's just from what I've seen with my own eyes, but he had a really good year last year. We'll see what he does this week. Again, I think it's going to be a massive test for these corners. DK Metcalf is just a monster, and they got JSN. That guy's just scratching the surface with that team from Ohio State. And then Tyler Lockett is just, man, he's reliable. I mean, I was playing him in fantasy last week, so I was watching him closely. He is just he catches everything that's thrown his way, it seems like. Yeah. And he is a burner too. I mean, he can take the top off you. So it's a big test, and obviously, I want to say Seattle has some injuries on the offensive line. I'm not entirely sure on that, but I thought I saw that somewhere. Just a quick search, just to make sure I'm not talking out of my ass here. But I want to say,
I think both are tackles.
Lions game. Yeah, during the Lions game, weren't both the tackles out?
Yeah, Charles Cross, who was, we interviewed his coach back in the day when we wanted him here in Carolina, but Charles Cross and their other tackle, I think, were both.
Yeah, they were both out this last game. So that's something to monitor, and that could help, because I'll tell you what, Charles Cross, if I remember right, he pretty much silenced Brian Burns in that game. Like, he played really well last year. Yeah. And Carolina obviously won that game, but he had a really good game against Brian Burns. I want to say I don't even think he gave up anything from him. So, I mean, he's a solid pass protector. So that would be, I mean, that would be huge if those guys couldn't go. And that will be something to monitor. It looks like a sprained big toe. Is that a sprained big toe and that guy come play? Get your ass out there. I'm not a frick. I don't know what they got to go through, but
Sprained
that's
big toe, baby. Come on.
What do you got for this game? What's your prediction?
Yeah, while I think that this could be a winnable game for Carolina, I do not think they're going to win. What's the line on it? Do you have the line?
I don't have the line. I can
let me pull
Google
that
it.
up real quick before I give a prediction here. We got the Seahawks are favored by 5.5. Yeah, I think that Carolina loses this game. Unfortunately, moves to 0-3, and they're staring the Minnesota Vikings in the face week 4. Score-wise, I think it's going to be kind of the same what we've seen week 1 and week 2, a low-scoring affair, and, they may pull away in the fourth quarter like what's happened these past 2 weeks. So I'll go Seattle 24, Carolina 14.
Yeah. Seattle put up 37 last week. Obviously went into overtime. And then they didn't do very well week 1, 30-13 against the Rams. I don't think Carolina wins this game. Sadly, I think they start 0-3, and this fan base is going to lose its shit. I'm going to go. I think it's going to be low scoring too. I'm going to go. What'd you say? 24 what?
24-14.
I'm going to go 27-17. So maybe not low scoring. 27's a lot, actually. Yeah, 27-17. So Carolina matches what they did this last week. Again, I hope I'm dead wrong.
Yeah, same.
I'd like to see this offense get rolling here, but I just think it's going to take a little bit longer to figure things out. And hopefully we can get, I'd love to see it. Bryce Young had DJ Shark on some deep shot this week. He just hasn't connected on those deep balls yet. So we could use a couple of those. But yeah, it should be a good one. I think it's 1 o'clock. No, it isn't a 1 o'clock. It's a later one this week.
Yeah.
Damn it. I was hoping it would be a 1 o'clock game. Yeah, should be a good one. We didn't even talk about this, and I'm a little upset that it took us this long to mention this. But those refs last night were fucking terrible. They were bad. They were really, really bad at that game. And I watched the first half back, and there was a couple plays that I was bitching about that I was like, okay, they made the right call. But there was a couple that I still I don't agree with, and I'm trying to think of the ones that come to mind. But there was just a couple questions. Oh, the one where there was like no review, the challenge. There was like no review on it. It was just like, boom, it's over.
Yeah.
The guy did not go to like the little whatever thing. Yeah. Carolina always gets shit on by refs, I feel like. Every time we're at a game, it seems like that.
No
and
also
also
advantage in that.
Yeah. And shout out to security guards. Wanted to mention that. They ripped down a Saints banner at Bank of America Stadium. Get that shit out of our stadium. We don't want it. I was flipping all the Saints fans off as that was happening. Everyone was. It was great. I don't know how you missed that. We were all
just locked in, dude.
Fuck you guys. Get this shit out of here. And then when the security guards came down, we were all clapping. One more thing we'll end on this. Just curious what your thoughts are on this. What do you think? So Carolina, if you haven't gone to a game yet, they are definitely trying to change the way they are presented. And I don't know what you want to call it. Not like a motto, but just what would you call it? Do you know where I'm going with this? You don't know where I'm going with this. So the Panthers are coming out with this thing. They have it on their video boards. Protect our layer or something like that. I think that's what it is. Protect our layer.
A mantra.
Yeah, their mantra. So like everything is almost like layered theme. Like they put this massive like rock sculpture in front of the Panther outside. Never has been done before. They had this other like rock thing. So they're trying to go to like this like a Panthers den kind of thing. And that's new this year. They've never done that. And they're trying to, you always think of like protect the bank, like Bank America, but like they're trying to put on this. I know the Lions do protect the den or yeah, I think that's what it is. They do like the den for like a Lions den. I wanted to get your take on like the new whatever mantra. There's a better word for it. I can't think of this shit, but their mantra. What do you think of it?
Yeah, they got to start winning games before I give a fuck about any mantra, anything. They ain't protecting shit right now. The only thing they're protecting is their losing streak. So I'm good on the mantra. I'm good on players dancing in the end zone when they're down by 10 points, and I'm good on players not showing emotion. Like, lock the fuck in, win a game, and then we can talk about a mantra at that point.
All right. I shit keeps spotting my head. I'll shut up after this because we got to talk about it because this is a big moment. Derek Brown, Michael Thomas after the game. Why in the hell is Michael Thomas trying to do fucking beefing with the biggest guy on the Panthers? Like, what are you doing?
That is the dumbest. I mean, Michael Thomas is a stupid human being. We all know that. That this man has played what 5-6 games in the past 3 years for the Saints. He's been robbing them, which I'm not mad about. Take as much money from them as you want, but you are going to go one of the best and strongest defensive tackles in the league, and you're running away when you're talking shit into your locker room. He's chasing you. He has no ground to stand on. This is Derek Brown's house. I'm glad Derek Brown stood up and let him know that this shit ain't going to be happening around here. You're not going to be running your mouth as you're exiting the field, even if you did win. Do it respectfully. And Michael Thomas went into his locker room and scampered away like the little chicken shit that he is. So I'm glad Derek Brown did it, and I would expect him to do it to anybody that would do it, act like Michael Thomas was acting.
Yeah, I'm a little confused, and I know you mentioned what you mentioned, but from what I've seen, that was the Panthers tunnel, from my understanding and what from others were saying online. And I'm confused because those tunnels for where the opposing team goes in and the home team goes in are opposite sides of the stadium. So I don't know how the hell that got mixed up or why he was there, because I believe that was Carolina's tunnel where he got into, which made no sense at all of how the fuck he was in that area, to me at least.
Yeah.
And I know some teams, they have them like some stadiums, they like cross paths sometimes, but I think they're on opposite ends, but I've never been down there. I've been at Lambeau's and I've seen theirs. But I know there's a couple stadiums where literally players cross paths when they go in and out of locker rooms. It's just the dumbest setup ever, if you ask me. But I just thought that was strange. But why are you even? I don't know. You don't pick that kind of fight with. You just don't do it.
Stupid.
But yeah, I love DB's rap. I mean, go after him. I have no problem with that. And we need guys that are not soft. So I'll take every bit of it. But I wanted to mention that because that's been the talk, and we'll see if anything comes of it. Because you don't see Derek Brown and him like go around a wall, and you kind of see them scuffle a little bit. You don't see what happened there. I don't know if a fist was thrown or what. No one knows what happened behind that little area. So I'm curious to see what Derek Brown says when he's asked about it. But I'm curious to see if NFL does anything too, because they'll do some stupid fine or some dumb shit like that. So
anything to get money.
But I think we're gonna leave it at that. Just want to appreciate everyone for tuning in to the Panthers on Tap podcast. You can get our podcast wherever you listen, whether that's Spotify, Apple, iHeart, any of those platforms. We're also on YouTube. Do not forget. Go listen there. You get to see our beautiful faces. Subscribe. Hit that bell. Go follow us on Twitter at Panthers on Tap for all your analysis and breaking news. And as always...